Hi everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's episode, it's the first weekend in February, time for some updates, and I'm sure I'll cut a few branches here and there. Before we show you some stuff in the plant room, let's head outside because it's the first day in about 5, 6, 7 days where I really want to go outside and check on the trees. Other days I had to, but today I really wanted to because, it was a balmy, according to the phone, 23 degrees. Still felt like 17 though. Let's see what we did outside just moments ago. Finally, we've come across a day where I can head outside and not be dressed like I'm going to the polar regions. So, as I'm heading outside today, 23 degrees is what it feels like. No, wait a minute. 23 is the actual temp. It feels like 17, which for many people would still think is really, really cold. But when we woke up yesterday morning with the winds, it felt like 30 below. The actual temp was about 14 below Fahrenheit, and we were supposed to get to about 18 below. We were fingers crossed, maybe thinking we'd have an ice day or a cold day from work. Didn't happen. We had a full day of work on Friday, and so all the kids were really tired. I don't think they wanted to be there, nor did any of the teachers. I'm out by the gardens where all the trees are. We've got the larch here that were collected from the bog. We've got the black spruce also with some of those larches. The Austrian pine back there. Can't wait to see what we're going to be doing with that with Peter T. later this spring. All the boxwoods are still covered in some snow. Poking through a little bit. They're doing just fine. I've got some pines back there. Looks like the critters have pretty much left those alone. That's good. We have some more boxwoods inside the garden bed. Big larch right there. We've got I think that is a quake and aspen right there. There's the amur maple, the small one of the two. That one's looking pretty good. And then the big lilac. Nothing critter chopped there. If you recall earlier in the year, everything was chopped off of that. But they'll come back. They're amur maples. We'll get lots of new shoots there. A couple more boxwoods, couple of the big ones. We'll see what we do with those this year, or if I have them to go to other folks. We've got the Siberian fir back there. I think it's a fir instead of a pine. I always get those two confused. Very cool tree. They kind of have a citrusy smell to them. Citrus and pine combination. And then here are the quaking aspen, the poplars that I dug up from the cabin last year, late in the year. A couple of critter chops down there, but that's from early on. Nothing's been touching them since. So that's nice. So now we got to go check the cabin cold frame. The cold frames have been doing really well, and they've been put to the test. So I mentioned yesterday was about 14 below Fahrenheit for an actual temp. And the Monday of this past week was also about 10, 12 below Fahrenheit. Wind chills of 25 below as we were going to work. So it's been brutal. It's been absolutely brutal. We've had all kinds of crazy weather cold-wise. And the temps inside the cabin cold frame in the garage have all maintained some really good steady temps between 35 and 40. So that's been awesome to see. Let's go check it out. So after opening up the aperture a little bit and making the ISO a little bit bigger, we can see how things are doing in the cabin cold frame. So we've got the big boxwood up top. Looking good there. A couple of quake and aspen again up there in the middle. We've got the taxus. And the quince back in the corner. That bundle of quince. I don't know what's going to happen with that one this year. It's been a very, very interesting tree. Got that from a former MBS member who left the country, I believe. And he just tried to sell them in the auction. He had a couple left. He said, "Hey, Dave, why don't you take them?" So we'll see what that quince does this year. Always very quick to bud out. We've got my juniper looking really nice and green. Loving life here in the cabin cold frame. And a really yellow looking willow. I'm really happy to see this so yellow, because when it turns dark color, that's when I get nervous. We get that black bark. It's dying somewhere. Something's going on. But look how yellow that is. I think that's going to take off this year and have some really fun growth. And we have a cotoneaster, and we have a barberry back there. One of the real cool gnarly bottom barberries. We had a little dieback on this one, so we've got a little stuff on top there. We'll see what happens with that one. And I'm really curious what this one's going to do. I sure love how it's kept its color all winter long. Super fun barberry there. A lot of gnarliness, trunks in the bottom. It's like 4 trunks in the bottom. We might get that down to 3 or 2. We got the Korean fir right here, looking really nice. I think that could take shape this year a little bit. And there's the boxwood. So now I just recently shared an episode of Dave's Bonsai back from the beginning. It was episode, get this, 7.5. Now I'm coming up on 300 videos. And 7.5 was kind of lost in the archives. Don't know why it wasn't on there. And so I discovered the very, either first or second peek at this one. So episode 7.5 with the boxwood. Now this is what it looks like 5 years later. I think it's been 5 years. However, you know, these are slow growers, so it doesn't seem a whole lot better, or bigger, I should say. Better is relative, right? But I put it over that rock last year, so now it's in this big box. It's on a rock. So we're going to have root over rock on this one, inspiration from one of my hikes. You can check out the playlist for the boxwood, and you can see kind of where this thing, excuse me, has gone over the last couple of years. We have another great big barberry back there. We'll see what that one does. That one's super big and gnarly. Now these barberries are like 30 years old, so they're just big and old and gnarly, and we're going to just hope that they really do some big blooming this year. And I've got my mini forests. Got the 3 back there in the back shelf. Those are all the Siberian elms, and they're all looking ready to just do some good things this year, I think. We've got little subtle movements in some of those, and they grow like weeds, so we'll probably get a ton of growth on those again this year. We're certainly hoping. We got another cotoneaster back in there. I think that might be Jake's. We'll work on Jake's this year. Then we have some clumps here that we're gonna make some mini forests this year with some folks. We've got 1, 2 of them over there, 3, 4 of them over there, and then 5, 6 over there, plus a solo back there. And one of my big original uprights. We're hoping that's going to do some things nice this year too. So as we come in here today, we got some real dry feeling bonsai pots. This one's not so bad, and it's a pine. This one's not so bad. Dig down in there a little bit, and yeah, we got some nice moist soil in there, so this one's good. A little bit more fine in there, and there's almost a little bit more, even some soil, like dirt almost feeling in there, some broken down stuff for sure. So yeah, we're going to take a peek at some of these a little bit closer, and we're going to go ahead and water some of these because they are dry. Down here we have the big maple. This is the one I'm going to chop. Now I have to make a decision if I'm going to chop it right here in the middle of winter before we wake up in the spring, or we wait until the first flush of growth. If I chop it here, all we have left are these branches down here, which is just fine. They should get some new growth in here and thicken up, and then we can have some movement in the trunk right away. This one will be, yeah, we have to make that decision here in the next couple of months for sure. So one of the things you have to remember about the cold weather, if you're having any of this cold weather like we have, is that, of course, it's drier. So we've had a lot of sunshine, which is nice. And when that clear sky, the sun, the high pressure in the wintertime, and we're talking about lows at night, 10, 15 below for the actual temps, and just not getting much above single digits in the day, well, then everything is really dry as well. So the cabin cold frame, the garage, the trees are drying out faster than normal. So you really have to check those trees weekly, if not a couple times a week for sure. And I've been watering my trees minimum once a week this year. So it's been very dry. No change right now, right here. We're going to get some of these trees watered right now. The Govee thermometer is coming in at 39 degrees. We're at 85% humidity. It's already gone up just since I've been here, I'm sure, because of all the water now that I've put into all these pots. So everything's looking really, really good. I want to show you something real quick before we leave. Now, this is not a good thing. It's kind of a scary thing. Remember I showed you how really nice and bright and yellow that weeping willow was? Well, get a load of this. Yeah, what is that right in the middle there? That is a green bud starting to open up, and it's only the first weekend in February. Woo! So we might get some long leggy growth on some of these branches if they start to pop this soon. Usually it's that tree in the back corner. Usually it's the quince that pops early, and that's way up in the corner now, away from the light. I wonder if some of these with the light will get some Siberian elm popping early, and this Cotoneaster will probably be a first one to go as well. It's always a little scary when things start to pop and get out of dormancy a little too soon. But the temps in here have been in a good, consistent temperature. If we do get a little early budding, we're just going to have to live with it for now. I don't think things are warming up too fast. That's probably just an anomaly, an outlier over there, and we'll just have to wait and see. And as always with bonsai, we got to keep an eye on these things on a weekly, if not multiple times a week basis. So that's the cabin cold frame. Let's head back outside and go head up towards the garage and see what's going on with those trees. All right, so the cabin cold frame is all secure. We got to grab these bottles, the water bottles, and go refill them up and head up to the garage cold frames and check those things out. Let's grab these bottles. It's a little strange when you're living in Minnesota. You walk outside with a vest jacket on when it's 23 degrees out, thinking, oh man, this is balmy, after you've had temperatures well below zero in the Fahrenheit department. Yeah, they think we're crazy, but it sure feels nice. Here we are in the garage, looking at some of our trees that are not in the cold frame. We've got the dwarf Alberta spruce and poplar forest, all looking pretty good. Still pretty frozen solid here. We're going to get temps in the 30s for like 3-4 days in a row, so these will thaw out. And we have the larch. Yeah, we're frozen. Still have some golden foliage on there. So those two seem to be fine. Come back deeper in the garage, and there's the birch forest on the clump, and frozen as well. We've watered that one, not quite as much because these have dipped just below the freezing mark. Not too terribly cold. I think the coldest the garage has gotten is about 20 or so degrees, maybe 18. So that's that cusp of like, ooh, I should maybe wrap a blanket around here, but I think we're okay. Now we got to open up the garage cold frame. We'll hit some lights and we'll see what we got going on. Got a couple boxwoods that I brought in here. As you recall, I made my tree in my hand pot, and those were a couple of possibilities. I chose the one that's in the hand pot. Got my little $50 challenge tree. Yeah, it's doing okay back there. Got some client trees in there. We've got the elm over the rock, just kind of leaning on the rock. My cascading juniper, a couple of Japanese maples. Hey, there's all the zelkovas down there. I'm going to give those some water. I've been watering them at least once a week because that's fresh pumice. And these were bare rooted, so they didn't have a lot of soil or anything to really protect them. So I've been keeping them really good and moist. I've got my Trident maple there that I hope takes off big time this year, and a couple more client trees. And we got down here a couple more client trees. There's the elms from Candace, the clumps from hers. She was just working on hers and repotting hers. We're going to get these out this year and see what they do. They're just stumps in a pot with a whole bunch of kind of suckers from those trunks. It'll be fun to see how fast those thicken up and what they do this year. So we're looking good. We're at 39 degrees for the upper. 39 degrees. I still have the lower one, as you can see, the Govee lower there. And then the bottom one is, you can't maybe see it on the screen, maybe you can, 35 degrees down below. These are doing okay. Let's check the watering conditions. Everything's gotten a good watering here out in the garage cold frame, and as warm as I think it is with 23 degrees, and I'm wearing my fancy vest, my fingers holding the camera and holding some water jugs are freezing. Time to go inside and see if there's some work I can do on a tree. Yeah, let's go warm up these fingers. Been watching some videos of late where some family pets have kind of snuck into the scene. We've got cats, dogs, and in my case, well, some fish. Got a nice looking angelfish back there starting to grow big time. Got the big giant danios, some lamp-eye tetras. Those angelfish are really, maybe I'm making them nervous. They're just going crazy on me right now. Fish tank in good shape. Time for some more water, I'm running low. Loving the fish. So nice to be out there working when it's not absolutely super tundra, frozen, solid miserableness, right? 23 felt like 17 and I had the vest on and the fingers still get cold, but boy, what a tough week we had. But now we're into February, short month. We are already at the end of the first week. Oh my gosh, it's going to be March and spring before you know it. So some updates here. We might work on a few trees, just a couple clips here and there. You'll see in a moment what I'm thinking about doing. But I wanted to give you some updates here in this first week of February. Not a whole lot going on for me in that last week of January, first week of February. Then we start getting into mid-February, closer to March, and that's where stuff can start kicking into gear. Now, one of the things with ficus trees that I tell all the people in workshops, and people get really nervous, and the leaves might fall off when you change it from your south-facing window to your west-facing window, or vice versa, because you'd really want more of the sun in the south-facing window. But then all of a sudden the ficus tree goes, what? What are you doing? And then the leaves fall off. They turn yellow because maybe you're underwatering, overwatering, but it's just stressed out. So kind of finicky ficuses, I guess, is a good way to put it. And so I thought I'd provide this update for encouragement for those who have ficus trees and are always concerned and wondering, because I was super concerned and I kind of should know better with my 6+ years of working with bonsai and ficus and amongst many other species. But this was the questionable ficus that I didn't know what the variety was. I couldn't get in touch with Andrea down at Weigert's to get an exact receipt where I thought I had the receipt, and she thought it was melon seed, but no, it wasn't melon seed. And then a couple of you folks, and I think Jay might have been the first one to say so, maybe not. Don't quote me, Jay, and anybody else, if I'm overstepping, I'm sorry. But Jay thought that this ficus tree was a philippinensis. And guess what, Jay? Ding, 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 I wish I had a prize to send you. As a matter of fact, I do. Check your mail soon. Maybe I'll have a prize for Jay for getting this philippinensis correctly. That was the correct diagnosis, and that is what this tree is. So what I want to show, though, not just that the name is that, so I'm glad I discovered that so I can tell people what it really is. I was worried about my philippinensis ficus trees because they were not showing a lot of growth down in the plant room. So it's a good reminder that even in the middle of winter with all my lights and the warmth and the humidity, the trees are just going to sit there and go, maybe they're just in a resting period. So those are those times, even though I want to work on trees, we have to stop and wait and be patient. And y'all know I have no patience. You know, I'm still working on that. So this was the philippinensis that I thought I would take a stab at and see if I could get this into a pot and see if the soil was okay, the root structure, because I was kind of nervous. And even though it came from a bonsai nursery, I wanted to see what it was and repotted, and sure enough, a couple of weeks after I started doing that, I saw some new growth. So look at the tree now, and this is super lovely. We've got this branch with 1, 2, 3 new leaves on it. This big leaf right here is actually new since you saw this tree last. Look at this branch right here. Brand new leaf, shiny and lighter green, really soft and supple right there and there and there. Look at right back in here. All of this new, up on top, new. This is lovely to see. Let's spin it around to this side. Look at all this right here. 2 new branches, completely new branches from this one right here. We kept this one, and we can now cut this tree down to size and maybe make some movement with this being the new leader, because we know that it's doing well. We know that it's pushing growth. This is the start of a new growth push down here in the plant room, so it's loving life. And I've warmed up my room a couple of days a week as well, so we're getting more warmth. Now the challenge with this tree is the reverse taper down here, but even down by the reverse taper, you probably can't see this little guy right down here. by my chopstick down here, there's a branch right there. If I would let that grow, maybe it would thicken up this part of the trunk. I'm not sure. But we've got these two roots right here, which is contributing to this bulge, and there was a branch right there that we cut off. So I might have to, when I repot this, maybe take out one of these two root systems here, maybe the thicker of the two, maybe all of them all together. I don't know. This could be a case where if this is not going to be a fixable tree, that we do an air layer right below this, cut these two branches off and do an air layer right here. Then we've got a nice looking flare right there with a branch right there, only a couple inches from the bottom. Who knows what we could do with this? But that bottom's looking pretty weak down there and skinny compared to this nice flare here. So time will tell on that. My excitement though is just because of all this growth. So look at that growth. That is fun. So about half of what you see here foliage-wise is all new growth. This tree is standing right next to another tree. So the same conditions, same warmth, same light, same water regimen. And look at this one. This one is just starting to push out. I've got the smallest of buds right here trying to push out right now. I've got a couple of buds right here starting to push out, and this right here is a new leaf, and there's a tiny one right in here, right there. Tiny little leaf right there. So this one's finally starting to wake up, and it's going to thick up like crazy on top because that's where all the foliage is. I've got this down here with another little tiny bud right there. And then this one's growing right here. But there's a lot of stuff up here, and it's not the prettiest one right now, but again, I know the tree is doing okay. It's finally kind of waking up and saying, hey, it's time to grow. So I could go ahead and repot some of these as well. But these will become workshop trees, possibly with a school club that I've been talking about, and or the youth program that we're going to maybe do with a bonsai workshop. Now this is the tree that was right next to it, right over here by my window, underneath my big LED light. This tree is in the same exact spot, and look at the growth on this tree. Phenomenal growth. New leaf, new leaf, new leaves right there, and some buds right there. Look at this side branch right here that we were talking about we could move eventually. All of that you're seeing right now, except for the back one back here, is new growth. All of this up here, this shot up a couple of inches right here, a couple of inches right here. All of this lighter green stuff within the darker green stuff. This tree now all of a sudden has a canopy. It doesn't look so scraggly like the other one I just showed you. So again, this one looked very similar only a few short weeks ago. And look at and these are sitting right next to each other with the same amount of light. So something's going on really nice down here. So the genetics of this tree just either woke up sooner or just woke up, period. And loving life. So that is awesome to see. We hope this one can catch up. But look at the nice movement on this trunk, and it's got a little flare down here. This aerial root can be moved. This is on the inside of a curve, and this one's kind of also on the inside of a curve, so it's kind of weird down here. But I love all of this growth. It tells me the tree is healthy and moving some growth, pushing out growth in the plant room. Let's put these back and see what's next. My next update is the Dracena forest that I made. So it's kind of an odd bonsai. Hey, let's talk about that for a moment. I keep getting a couple of little nudges from some of you out there from different parts of the world, I'm assuming. I'm trying to remember where they came in from. But teasing, poking a little bit of fun at how we say bonsai over here. So I do have a tendency to not say bonsai, I say bonsai, but I use the Z too much. It's bonsai with a S, right? So had to get that out in the open. I'm aware that I do it. I don't correct myself enough. So in my bonsai forest right here of the Dracenas, I left the two small ones alone. This big one, I don't know if you remember. You have to check out the footage when I put it in this. So check it out here. I'll put it up and down below in the link, or up here in the corner. One of those two things. You'll be able to go check out the Dracenas. But this one was chewed off by a rabbit a couple years ago, and there were bite marks in it, and it started to grow a new limb on there. So it was great. Way up here, and I finally said, you know what? Let's see what the Dracena can do. And I chopped it down to here, right down to there. And look what is happening right down there. I've got two beautiful new branches coming out. So if you look real subtly to the base of that trunk, it moves a little bit from left to right. A little bit left to right this way, then swings back this way. Ever so subtle. But now look where those branches are coming out. Let me show you the other angle. You can see it better, because what you were seeing was another one of those, scars. I got a scar back here. I don't know if that again was from the chew, but that was what was all up and down the tree. So if you look at it from that side now, it's cleaner, and this branch is a little higher than this one, so it's not a bar branch. It would have been nice if it was another 1/4 inch higher. It would have had a nice little every other little pattern there. But I was just so excited that I could take a Dracena and just chop it off like the rabbit did a couple years ago, so I figured I'd have some luck. And I've got 2 new buds growing right there, about 1/4 to 1/2 inch in length, and they're going to be new branches, and I'll have a double palm, if you will, for that Dracena. And these 2 over here are doing just fine. Got that kind of lean over to that side, but they're solid into the pot pretty much here, and it's starting to grow a little bit this way now though. So if you see these branches here, this is the main trunk right here growing straight up and down perpendicular, but it starts this way and curves this way and then goes back this way. So that's kind of fun. We've got movement. So if you ever want to have movement in your trees, plant them at an angle, and then they're going to start growing back up towards the light and sun, and we're in good shape. Isn't that fun? The Dracena has taken off. I can't wait to see what that one looks like in another month or 2. My next update is a cutting of a cutting. This is from my mother-in-law's Schefflera, and I made this into a twin trunk. So I put the trunks together with some twine, put it back in the ground, and this one is looking really fun. I mean, it's such a small tree, and the leaves have remained relatively small so far. This is being the biggest one, and one back here too. But it's just a cute little twin trunk. It's a twin trunk tree. Say that fast, really, really fast 3 times. Looking pretty good. I like all the growth in here. So this little tree down here has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 branches to choose from down here. And the big one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I have a lot of branches to choose from when I decide to work on this tree next. So that is really, really fun to see. All these little ones. There's a couple of tiny itty bitty ones in here that are just starting to pop up. So I'm going to be able to pick and choose where this one grows with some clip and grow. So absolutely fun, cute little Schefflera tree, a cutting of a cutting from my mother-in-law Sue. Thanks again, Sue, and I love this one. It's becoming a new little favorite. The other clump update I have for you is my 3-trunked, looks like to be a version of like a tiger bark ficus, and this was some branches that I got from my friend Henry, and I do believe it's a tiger bark ficus. I'm not 100% sure, but it looks it to me, it's acting like it, the bark looks like it, and I put these trees from a pot of miscellaneous stuff that Henry gave me, and I put these 3 into this clump right here. Again, some twine on there to make this a triple trunk. Hopefully it grows up together someday and becomes one big trunk with some nice texture in there. And so this one also, I just wanted to show you because slow but sure, absolutely. All new growth right here, an inch plus on this one, an inch plus right there, this new leaf here, all these little buds back in here. So we have some new growth on the triple trunk clump style that we're gonna make into a solo trunk here in time. We're not going to cut anything on this one today. We're just making sure that everything is still looking good. So there's an update on the triple trunk. It'll be interesting to see where I bend and shape this in the future. I have 2 more trees to show you for today, and the first one is the Ficus triangularis, and this one has been a fun, interesting tree. Again, to remind everybody, this is one that my wife wanted me to put in the ground because she thought it was so cool, and these variegated leaves are so fantastic. And I said, well, it's a ficus, so we have to keep it in the plant room. I put it in this big Sarah Rayner pot here so we can put it on our main porch and have it as one of our accent pieces. And this one's doing really well as well. I like how it's growing. We've got some new buds in here, all kinds of different spots, and it's just thickening up really nice. This is kind of the flat side. You see right here, it's kind of flat, which was a potential front of this one, because if we do have this as the front, this kind of pokes right at us and we'd have to do some switching around. The only reason I don't like this as the front right now is because there's a great big scar right here. This scar right here is kind of a bummer. But this tree will grow up and become more of, I think, a lollipop tree perhaps than this cone-shaped tree. Not sure how I'm going to pursue that with this one. This is the lower branch, and this one's a little bit thinner than this one. And I was bending this one the other day, and I got a little bit of cracking going on right here when I was bending this, just trying to look at it. So I have to be careful and just let that heal up. But this one is the main first primary branch. This one's the second one. So this one shouldn't be thicker than this one. So I'm trying to let this one grow out so it can thicken this, and then we'll cut it back. And I'll keep this one shorter. But you can see right here, look at how much that's shot up right there. So here's what I can do with this one. I'm going to give this one a little bit of trim today, because we had some things like this downward facing one. We're going to cut that off. And then this very branch right here that I don't want this to get too thickened up. This has a lot of energy right now, so I'm going to go ahead and take that off right there. So that took this off. If you see it from the front now, now we're missing that whole big section right there. And now this branch is growing straight up and down, so I don't like that as much. So I have to decide if I am going to bend this eventually, but it is cracking, so I want to wait. So I don't think I'm going to monkey with this one, but you know what? Let us cut this part off at least right there. So now we have some leaves here. We got some leaves here, and this one close to the trunk, but this is fine for right here. This back branch is laying really nice right now. So that's cool for this at the moment. And push comes to shove, we could cut this branch right here off completely and have this branch go up this way and come out this way, have some nice movement on it and from some good taper. Might be easier to see from this side. You've got this going up here, and then it tapers out this way, so we got thick to thinner, and get rid of this big thick branch even more, but I'm not going to do that today. So there's that one out there. This is the one we're leaving grow to thicken the whole branch up, so I'm just going to leave this one out like its sacrifice branch that it is at the moment. Okay. Leaf growing in right there. We have then some other areas of concern. There's nothing really of concern on this tree. It's just that it's getting real thick up on top again, which of course will hide some of the light down below and keep these branches down here from growing further. I could bring this tree down another inch or two in size because we have a trunk that's, you know, say it's 3/4 of an inch, ½ inch thick here, and it's only about a 1/16 of an inch thinner up here. It's like super thin, or the same distance all the way up. Look how nice and straight it is. Do we cut it down even more to hopefully promote some more of a tapered look? But I'm not really thinking I want to do too much to this tree right now. If I got rid of this one right here, that promotes this one becoming more of the leader right here. That's looking kind of nice. We've got a real thick branch right here. Look at this thick branch right here with a lot of foliage on it. And look behind it. There's a new branch coming right there. So why don't we cut off this big branch right here for the new one? There we go. Look at that. So that took away a big part of that top, that apex that's really trying to shoot up tall. I'm going to bring this one shorter. I'm going to bring this one shorter. And this is the new kind of leader right now. We can bring this one shorter. Look at all the growth on this one right here on the tip here. Not much inside, but we can definitely bring that shorter. I think I'm going to go even shorter on that one. And here's the sacrifice branch. Remember, we're going to leave that alone. But we can go ahead and cut this one a little shorter. We can cut this one a little bit shorter. This one back by me. This one out here. Now we have a little bit slender, more slender of a tree, more light to come in. Kind of get this apical region a little bit more slender at the moment. Young trees have more of that shape going up and down, conical, and they get more round as they get a little bit older. We've got a lot of branching right in here, a lot of leaves. We can kind of take these bottom two leaves off, I think. There we go. So, you know, so I made this a little bit more compact. Got rid of some of the thickness up here to let this one down here get more light and let this one shoot out and get a little bit thicker so it catches up to this guy over here. I can clean this up a little bit right here. Shorten this back one up just a tad. Yeah, so nothing major. And again, what's nice is we do have branches like right here. You see how we have this thicker branch that we've cut back, and this one is a real thin one, new growth? Well, we don't want that thick up top, we want thinner up top, so if I cut that off, that thicker branch, that leaves this real thin one to take over, and then that'll look a little bit more natural later on. We also have that right here. You'll notice this one doesn't look as variegated, it's a little more yellow. I don't know if that one's fading away and not doing so strong, so it's weak, so I might not want to cut that one off yet. So that's one where I could hold off. And again, I'm not too worried about the massive shape of this guy. We're just thinning it out so we can get that growth on the bottom, have a nice push of growth here in the plant room as we get ready to bring things out in the spring. So that's way more than I even anticipated cutting off, but it's in good shape. We'll get more growth on this sacrificial. And let's go ahead and put this back on the shelf. And the final update for today. The Molina has gone absolutely berserk, which I love. I love this kind of growth in the plant room. So this one, after I chopped it off and put a couple of guy wires on here, a couple of branches started to take off. One kind of had a little death over here, but I had some more green leaves and they're still there and everything's fine. And as you can see, here's one of those growths right here. About 8 to 10 inches of growth from this side branch, really growing in kind of a precarious way. And so, as to not get these too thick too fast, I am going to go ahead and trim this one on just a little bit. You can see we got this little tiny leaf down here at the lower part of the tree. We'll just leave that for right now. Maybe that could become a branch that's keepable down the road. Not sure in the least. Look at how big this one is right here. Growing from a spot over there that's growing a whole different direction. Look at how that crosses back over the center of the tree. We don't want that growing that way or this that way. Kind of bizarre, right? And then look at the big one. Can you even see the top from where you are? This right here, 18 inches of growth. And look at the inner nodes. Not too terribly bad for my plant room. Now, one of the things I want to point out, and something I've learned from Peter T. and some other professionals and MBS members who have been around a long time, but Peter T.'s been the one who's really made this hit home with me, and I still have to really think this through sometimes, but it's something really good to remember about pruning your trees. If you have a tree that's going to grow fast like this, now maybe not the Molina, but if you're talking like a Japanese maple, the Trident maples, and boom, they're going to shoot up really long growth. So the tendency for some people, and myself included, is like, well, I want to cut all of this off down to 2 leaves. If you have that concept of 2 leaves, now you're going to cut off all of this energy down to these 2 leaves. And if it's a good growing season, like the Trident maples in the springtime, and you cut all this down to these 2 leaves, now those 2 are just going to shoot up like crazy, and those inner nodes will be long. So if you want short inner nodes, what we want to do is we want to prune at least one set of leaves above the lowest ones, so these go up like crazy. These leaves right here shoot up like crazy. That gets a ton of the energy, and this is going to be a little bit more left behind, because this one's going to be up by the sun. It's the apex. If you cut all this off, these are going to shoot up like crazy, and then these will be a little bit slower in the smaller inner nodes. So we don't typically want to cut some varieties right down to those 2 leaves, because then those 2 are going to take off just as fast as this did, and they could potentially, based on the species, have a long inner node. So with this one right here, I know from the get-go I wouldn't even cut it below 6 leaves right here. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, these 6 right here. Let's cut it right there. And then this is going to grow much slower, because these 4 leaves are going to grow much faster than down here, and I'll get that really tight inner node down here. Or maybe these will be a medium range and they're going to be good enough, we'll see. So look, I just cut off over a foot of growth. Now this is still pretty soft and pliable and bendable. I don't know if this in a Molina will work as a cutting. I could put some of these right here, 3 or 4 from in some soil and see, so maybe we'll do that. So that was the big tall one. Now I'm trying to look at what was the front over here, and I think it's this way right here. Yeah, because of the elephant over here that's showing you the front of the tree. This is kind of coming out right at you. So again, I'm going to go down to about 6 leaves left and cut that off for now. This one's growing at a weird angle. And again, there's a leaf really low down there, but this is right here, the lowest one. I'm going to cut down to there for now. And then this one's going a really weird direction right now, but again, I just want to make sure I cut it and I can go back and look at it. I'm cutting it down to those 2. And these right here are some really big leaves. This is just really oversaturated with some really big leaves. So I think I want to cut a couple of these big leaves off, trying to save some of the young little new growth, because that new growth will come in and take over for these great big leaves right here. There's just so many of them, I don't even know what light's getting in there, to be honest. So I'm just cutting some of those off, growing in some weird directions, a couple straight down over here. Yeah, and they're not even as looking like that ivy or looking like that that duck's foot style anymore either, because they're so big. So there's a big one for you right there. Super huge leaf right there. So now I just got the tree a little bit more compact. This one is growing in a decent place, but again, let's go down to here. I cut this one to here, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 leaves left. So I think 4 is a safe bet. 6 is not going to be harmful for me, so I'm going to stay with 6 at the moment. And I've got this growing. Look at the size of that one. That's a big leaf. So I've got, this is the one that we got this guy wire down. So I've got these leaves growing this way. This one's another layer maybe for a different level of pad. This one's growing a little bit up an odd direction. So I almost want to cut this one off because it's going inside. And I want to cut down lower because I don't want that to grow inside anymore. We're going to keep it growing outside. So we're going to go and hope that these leaves down here mature. We're going to leave all that alone. This one's growing from a mediocre spot, kind of to the right of this split as you're looking at it. Again, right now, since I'm trimming, I'm just going to go ahead and trim this one as well, down to the 4 to 6 leaves. And now we have the tree all back where it was before, and more energy can be shot back down to the mid region and see if we can get even more branches, because this one is brand new, this one is brand new, this whole big one is brand new. We've gotten a lot of new leaves, and this one is almost entirely brand new as well, so doing well. And even if we cut this branch where the wire is right now, we have this one shooting up this way, so I really like that. And I want to see if I have any wire cutting in. I don't see any wire cutting in. I think we can leave it on for a few more weeks. I will probably take this off in the next couple of weeks, especially if I add more heat to the room here. This could start growing even more. So we have some other tiny little leaves trying to grow in there, so we're just going to put this back on the shelf now and let this take off. So there's your final update for today. The Molina, which 18 inches of growth, and it's reaching towards the window and all that extra light this time of year. And we have a not horrible looking tree that's still got lots of potential and all this new growth. Fantastic. Well, that'll wrap it up. Some updates for you and just a little bit of work, a little more than I actually thought I was going to do. But of course, it's hard to hold back from doing a little work on the weekend. I just want to work on something, which is what Jack Weichel says. Make sure you get a whole bunch of trees. Incidentally, if you want to see that interview, go check out my podcast on the website, or check up here. I've got the link up here for Jack Weichel and his interview with me. Some fun stuff. And he says, get more than one tree. Have a whole bunch of trees and you can do your experimentation and see what's going to be best for your trees. So there we are, the Molina, and all the updates for today. Things are looking pretty good in the plant room and out in the cold frames. Until next time, hey, take care of you, take care of your bonsai, and we'll catch you very, very soon on the next one.